From the campaign trail to Capitol Hill, buckle up because the Hill is rewinding the politics, events, and power players that have shaped our national headlines.
So the Department of Defense will soon have a new name. President Trump set to sign an executive order today to rebrand the Department of War. Now he can officially change the name. For that, he'll need approval from Congress. Now, President Trump will authorize the Pentagon to use secondary title.
This is the president's latest effort to show imagery of a tougher America. He's been pushing to bring back the name, which was last used in 1947. He recently made these comments on a possible name change.
You know, Department of Defense, we won the World War I, World War II. It was called the Department of War. And to me, that's really what it is. It's defense is a part of that. But I have a feeling we're going to be changing. I'm talking to the people. Everybody likes that. We had an unbelievable history of victory when it was Department of War. Then we changed it to Department of Defense.
President Harry S. Truman changed the name in 1947 under the National Security Act, which combined the Navy, Air Force, and War Departments into a single organization. All right, so Department of War, first named by George Washington, impressed by the founding fathers, right?
Books.
I know
like,
a lot of people
Department of War.
I know, but a lot of people forget. But yes, it was named by George Washington, then obviously changed after World War II in 1947. Look, this is pretty low stakes to me. Is anyone going to be really worked up about this? Maybe I'm being naive, but it doesn't seem like a big deal to me.
I mean, it's a small thing. Obviously, right, our department is going to do the same functionality that it's going to do, whether it's war or defense. But I think, you know, it's just putting that more aggressive image out. And, you know, what President Trump promised on the campaign trail was that he's anti-war, that he was anti everything that happened in Afghanistan, and that he's, I think a lot of the, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the MAGA base seems like they don't want to get in any more foreign conflicts. But President Trump has completely, basically, and I know he wants the Nobel Peace Prize for ending so many foreign conflicts, which is arguable, but he's gotten into many, like most recently with Iran, or bombing and killing people in Venezuela over potential drugs, but not even just arresting them and, you know, putting them through prosecution. Like, there's so many acts of war that are characterized by what the president has done recently that makes me feel like this is extra aggressive and really not timely when most of his base doesn't even want to get in any more foreign conflicts.
Yeah, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I think that people would be supportive of a foreign conflict if it were in America's interest, which is what the America First foreign policy is all about. It's not strictly isolationist. Now, people on the right have been critical of Trump's decision, for example, to get involved in the bombing of Iran. There was some different things people were saying about intelligence as to where Iran actually was in their development of a nuclear weapon, how far along they were in the process, right, and then how successful the strike was. I think people breathed a sigh of relief when it ended up being a 12-day war instead of a 20-year war.
I was gone for 12 days and came back and it was
and
done.
It was over. So that was good news. And then on the Venezuela strikes, those individuals have been designated foreign terrorist organizations. So that is perfectly within the parameters and the use of force that he is allowed to have as commander-in-chief. But
well, Trump is tagging a lot of people as terrorists in order to do what he wants and kind of skirt around issues. So,
I mean, they're terrorists. I mean,
but he's calling drug cartels terrorists, and that's him calling them. But we weren't calling them, categorizing them as terrorists prior to President Trump,
which was a mistake.
But that's what I'm saying. He's making the decision to basically make what he's doing okay. And so there's a way to deal with people. And I think when we actually have terrorists that were categorized in that way historically for the last few years, then we go about it a certain way. But what he's doing, even like with changing the Defense Department to the war name, he can't even do that. He has to go through Congress. And for some reason, he doesn't like going through Congress to get things done, even though he is running Congress with Republicans. Why don't you just get it done properly? You know, like, there's a way to make this actually the Department of War and just see if the people want it, because hopefully Congress will vote based on what their constituents want. But instead, he's providing a name as an option and saying go by either one. And he knows that a lot of his minions are going to be like, we'll go by the one you said, President Trump.
Well, and the reason that he's doing that first before going through Congress is because Congress is woefully inept at their jobs, right? They don't like to actually go to work. They don't like to legislate.
But is this worth putting on the docket for them? That's
which
what
is they're doing, which it sounds like they're doing. So I think the thing that he's doing is adding a little bit of pressure, like, hey guys, this is something that's kind of important to me. Maybe we could prioritize it the next time that you're in session and actually spend more than 20-hour work weeks on the job.
I actually want to know what people in the comments think. Do you think it should be Department of War, Department of Defense? let us know, because I feel like it's something very small, like you said, but it could have big implications based on us trying to look super aggressive and what that even means to the rest of the world.
I hope we do look aggressive. Peace through strength, right?
There's two types of leaders in this world. That does it for us on Rising Live. Look out for more exclusive content on YouTube coming your way today. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen on the go, we're now available to listen anywhere you listen to podcasts. We'll see you next week.
So we're just learning that President Trump and his administration are sending the world's largest aircraft carrier strike group to the U.S. Southern Command Area of Responsibility. That means they're sending it to the Caribbean, Central America, or South America as they escalate their fight against the cartels. This is just the latest escalation, but a significant one to send the world's largest aircraft carrier to that area. A defense official just told me that it is right now in the Mediterranean, and it will take a good several days for it to move into position. They wouldn't say exactly where due to the sensitivity and security of that mission, but it does show that the U.S. is taking this fight against the cartels and those alleged drug boats very seriously, even as the president says he is considering moving those strikes to land because he says there are not as many boats traveling by sea anymore. Those strikes are now occurring pretty much daily instead of weekly, as we saw the last several weeks. We have seen about 3 strikes just this week, the 10th one happening overnight, as several, as the U.S. calls them, narco-terrorists have been killed in these strikes, and they only seem to be escalating.
So think about it, with all that's going on right now, how about this? The world's biggest aircraft carrier is now off the coast of Venezuela. I'm Blake Berman, host of The Hill on News Nation. So let me show you some of what's happening here in our southern hemisphere and what it could mean for our troops at home, abroad, wherever they might be, really. The USS Gerald R. Ford arriving in the Caribbean this week, and it is the latest show of U.S. military might in the region. Look at this thing. It is huge, as tensions, of course, continue to escalate with Venezuela. It follows this. We've seen these, right? One after the next for weeks now. The U.S. striking alleged drug boats in the Caribbean, also in the Pacific Ocean. In all, 19 strikes that we know of on at least 20 boats. The administration posting videos of these strikes over the course of 10 weeks. Now, the strikes are happening as the tensions rise, as I mentioned, between the U.S. and Venezuela, right? And this is where our military assets are in the region, whether it's just off the coast of Venezuela, out to the east, Puerto Rico, Central America as well. That's where our troops are stationed. It includes, for example, guided missile destroyer ships, warplanes, helicopters, drones, you name it. The Pentagon has also flown bombers near Venezuela's coastline. Now, as for the USS Gerald R. Ford, it brings a ton of capability. This is some of it here. You got the Super Hornet, a Growler, the Advanced Hawkeye, Seahawk, a Greyhound, and also 4,000 sailors. These are the assets that come with that huge aircraft carrier. Now, President Trump has floated the idea of land strikes inside Venezuela to combat drug cartels. Venezuela reportedly preparing, as they put it, a guerrilla-style defense if an attack comes. Trump saying war with Venezuela, though, is unlikely. Those were recent comments that he made. But he also believes that the leader there, Nicolas Maduro, that his days at the helm are numbered. Now, with all these assets piling up off the coast, think about it. The president had to move all this stuff in, right? It took time, weeks. So now it's wait and see. What does the commander-in-chief do, if anything, with them? I'm Blake Berman. I'll see you on The Hill on News Nation, 6 o'clock Eastern. Catch you then.
Hello, good evening, and thanks for being with us on this Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. I'm Blake Berman. Racing against the clock, a vote to end the shutdown comes as the Transportation Secretary is warning tonight that the travel troubles could only get worse.
Big disruption thus far, massively more disruption as we come into the weekend if the government doesn't open. It is going to radically slow down. So the House has to do its work.
Why more flights are being canceled and delayed ahead of Wednesday's big House vote. Plus, on the move, why our largest aircraft carrier is now positioned right off the coast of Venezuela. The message from the commander-in-chief on this Veterans Day. Also tonight, is your credit card bill a con job? How the president is now reacting to claims of rising prices, and a new battle out west. A Utah judge strikes down the GOP's redistricting map. How this could reshape both parties' playbooks for 2026. But first tonight, it is a day away, but thousands of canceled and delayed flights short. The House of Representatives set to take a major vote to reopen the government, but it's not stopping those travel flightmares, I guess you could say, for many. The mandatory FAA flight restrictions at major airports jumping today from 4%, where it started on Friday, now up to 6%. And that led to over 1,200 flight cancellations. The commander-in-chief at Arlington National Cemetery on this Veterans Day, paying his respects and making mention of the impending government reopening.
We're also honored to be joined by a great man. He will go down as a great man someday. Speaker Mike Johnson. Congratulations to you and to John and to everybody on a very big victory. We're opening up our country. Should have never been closed.
Alex Capriello just spoke with the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, what he told Alex about when flights will return to normal. But first to our Joe Khalil live up on Capitol Hill on the eve of this big House vote, Joe, tomorrow afternoon sometime, 4 or 5 o'clock hour here on the East Coast or so.
Yeah, we expect 4 o'clock is the time that House Republican leadership says they want to have this vote, or at least begin the voting. That should give some people enough time to get here, given all the travel delays that Alex is going to talk about. And then they could get it to the president's desk by Wednesday evening, and officially the longest government shutdown in our history will be done. That is the hope if everything goes to plan. But Blake, there are still some issues left unresolved once the government is funded, at least through January 30th. Chief among them is this health care issue that Democrats have sort of made their fight for the entire length of this shutdown. We know Republicans in the Senate, they want to work on this. They say they're willing. They're putting forward ideas already. The House side has been a bit more hesitant. We haven't heard a commitment from Speaker Johnson yet. He says on these subsidies, if people's premiums go up, they're not sure how they would handle it. It would have to be, in his words, a deliberative process. So we caught up with the Speaker and asked him what exactly that means. Here's what he said. You mentioned earlier there's going to be a deliberative process to see what you might do on the health care and subsidies. What does that look like?
Like everything we do around here, with small margins and every vote counting, we got to build consensus from the bottom up. That's what we'll do on this as well.
So, Blake, unlike what happened in the Senate, remember that the House does not need Democratic votes in order to actually pass the CR, the funding bill. As long as their conference remains united, Republicans can pass it just by themselves. We expect that may happen. They may pick up a couple of Democratic votes along the way. We're going to see here as we get going with that.
Joe K, live tonight in the Capitol hallways. Joe, thank you. So the bill would get federal workers back on the job and reverse firings that happened over the last 6 weeks. Congressman Suhas Subramaniam's district is home to thousands of federal workers, but he plans to vote against the bill. And the congressman is with us live tonight here on the Hill. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Why are you going to be voting against this?
Well, this doesn't do enough, one, to protect those federal workers and contractors, because when they go back to work, they simply face the same thing they face all year long, which is firings, furloughs, and just poor treatment generally. And then, again, we're seeing a healthcare crisis emerging. People are already getting their bills for next year. They're pricing for next year, and it's going up 20% to 200%. People who don't even get the ACA subsidies are seeing their healthcare go up, too. And so we didn't, this pinky promise to have a vote on this is not enough. What I wanted is the House to be open during this time instead of Republicans being on vacation. And I wanted us to figure out what we're going to do on health care. I haven't heard a plan from them. I haven't heard a promise from a vote on the House side either. Right. So there hasn't been enough.
I hear you on the health care subsidies, but I think there might be some folks at home wondering, wait a minute. You represent your district is right outside of Washington, thousands of federal workers. How do you square, though, saying basically, you know what? Don't come back on the job.
you don't necessarily deserve to get paid at this moment in time, because that's what a vote against this is.
Oh, I think they deserve to get paid. I don't want a shutdown. I never wanted a shutdown. Republicans had 6 months to negotiate this. And in the end, they decided that they wanted to have this shutdown. They wanted to have this fight. And even the past couple of weeks, I mean, Trump has, the leverage he's used is basically trying to take away food assistance, right? Like, that's the leverage he's been using on people.
Stay with me here for a second. Live now, the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, will get reaction on the other side.
But they can no longer hide. The Rules Committee is going to meet shortly, and then tomorrow there will be votes on the House floor. And Democrats will continue to press the case, to say to our Republican colleagues, you have another opportunity to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits and make sure that tens of millions of Americans all across the country in communities that Republicans represent, along with us as Democrats, tens of millions of Americans, rural America, working class America, urban America, small town America, the heartland of America, and in black and brown communities all across America, people at risk of experiencing dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Before the Rules Committee this evening, House Democrats, led by myself and Whip Catherine Clark, will give the Republicans another opportunity to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits by introducing an amendment that will extend these tax credits for a 3-year period of time. Same period of time that these tax credits were extended back in 2022. Republicans have created a health care crisis all across America. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers closing all throughout the country because of what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill. Medicare still at risk of the largest cut it may confront in American history unless Congress acts by the end of this year. And of course, because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits in the midst of a cost of living crisis that already exists, that they failed to address, health care for people all across this country is on the brink of becoming unaffordable. Working class Americans, everyday Americans, middle class Americans, unable to afford to go see a doctor. This is in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And so once again, House Republicans, welcome back from your taxpayer-funded 7-week vacation. You now have an opportunity to actually take some action in an area of this health care crisis by working with Democrats before the Rules Committee this evening to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. It's now my honor to introduce Whip Catherine Clark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leader. And we are indeed looking forward to the return of the missing House GOP.
All right, so we've been listening there to the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries as the House tomorrow will take up the government reopening bill. The sort of fine print on all this is that the process starts in a little bit. Back with me, Congressman Subramaniam, Democrat from Virginia. I just heard Hakeem Jeffries, as you did, and we were watching it together. I don't understand, or I don't know what Democrats accomplished in all this. What tangible was accomplished?
I think the Democrats...
Can you point to anything? Like, I hear the messaging, but can you point to anything that the party accomplished?
Well, I don't think they accomplished enough. I'll say that getting this promise to have a vote in the Senate, they would consider an accomplishment on the Senate side. They'd also say that we're preventing rifts for the next 2 or 3 months. I think the Trump administration could get around those rifts, which is why I'm disappointed in the deal, frankly. And there's another thing in the bill, actually, that people don't know about. Basically, 8 Republican senators are going to get at least $500,000 from the DOJ for wrongful investigation.
The ability to sue.
The ability to sue, but then it limits the ability for the DOJ to fight that back and And so we got more money for Republican senators than we did for health care.
So
this is a terrible deal.
You're on the House Oversight Committee as well. The government likely to reopen tomorrow and then back to business. Congresswoman Grijalva will be sworn in. That probably is going to trigger the discharge petition for Jeffrey Epstein as it relates to releasing the Epstein files. You're on the committee, as I mentioned. You want formerly known as Prince Andrew to come and testify as well. If that's the case, do you also want Bill Clinton to testify before the
I
committee?
want everyone who has information to come testify. I think Bill Clinton's
Prince
on the
Andrew,
list of people.
Clinton, all of them?
Everyone who is involved and engaged in this and has information about it should come testify. I don't care if they're a Democrat or Republican. Doesn't matter to me. I just want the truth and the answers. We haven't gotten the files from the Trump administration. We want those too. We want the financial records from the banks as well. And we want that 218th signature to force those files to get released.
Is this where the House is going from here?
It's
Like
one of
once
the many.
once it reopens, all of a sudden now we're going to hear Epstein again?
I would really like a vote on lowering costs and affordability. We haven't had that really this year. I'd like to actually tackle this healthcare crisis, but certainly, you know, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can have an Epstein vote as well and get those files and get some transparency there as well.
Congressman Subramaniam with us tonight, Democrat from Virginia. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Coming up, what is going on at our nation's airports as the shutdown continues? Yes, the government likely to open tomorrow. But when you're talking about air travel, can you really just flip a switch? Bang, like that, we're up and running? Alex Capriello asked Sean Duffy what the transportation secretary told News Nation on the other side. All right, so cuts to flights at 40 airports, increasing now to a total of 6%, causing more widespread disruptions at airports all across this country. It comes with air traffic controllers missing their second full paycheck. Many of them walking off the job to take on side hustles. They need to pay just for everyday needs. And even after the shutdown ends, it could take some time before airline service is back to normal. Can't just flip a switch on this stuff, right? And we are just weeks away, as you know, from Thanksgiving.
So they're going to have to get everybody spun back up, get people back to work. And I think it's going to take several days. And then the carriers are going to have to restore, you know, their scheduling of aircraft, their crews.
Chicago O'Hare, among the worst delays in the country tonight. The Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, showed up there just a little while ago, spoke to reporters, including our Alex Capriello, live tonight at O'Hare. Alex, you asked the question that I think a lot of Americans are curious about, which is, okay, when the shutdown ends, we believe, tomorrow afternoon, then what, and how long does it take to get everything up and running?
Well, probably not as quick as people would like. As you rightly pointed out, it's not like flipping a switch. You know, we're talking about flight reductions due to what seems to be over concerns when it comes to air traffic patterns and overall safety in the sky. And Secretary Duffy, in essence, said that he's looking at data. He's a data-driven man, according to these decisions. And he's looking at the data to see the improvements before he starts to make changes or roll back those reductions. And in specific, he's looking at a few things. Number one, runway incursions, how close aircrafts are to each other on the tarmac. Number two, the increased complaints that are actually being fielded by pilots. And then number three, what he calls loss of separation from the aircrafts that are actually flying in the sky. Too close for comfort, in essence. So until he sees that data actually improve, well, the reductions will stay in place, unfortunately, for those travels. So it's probably not the news that people want to hear, but of course he says this is all for the greater safety of the flying public. Take a listen to Secretary Duffy.
We're going to wait to see the data on our end before we take out the restrictions in travel. That 6% we have in place right now. But it depends on controllers coming back to work.
And again, that air traffic control shortage still very much a concern, but he's seeing it improve day by day. This is the latest numbers that we have from FlightAware, where we're looking at both cancellations and delays. You can see more than 20,000 when it comes to delays beginning on Sunday. Improvement, although still a very high number, 3,000 delays so far today. Also improvement when it comes to cancellations, more than 5,000 when you combine both Sunday and Monday. Only 1,200 today, but still that's a lot of people out there. I was speaking to some passengers here at O'Hare who told me that at one point this weekend they had to sleep on the airport floor because their flight continually got canceled. Take a listen to them.
We had a layover flight, so we had to go to Charlotte. So we got on the plane, went to Charlotte, and then our flight got canceled from Charlotte to Chicago. So then we had to rebook again. So we were originally Frontier, so then we had to go through United to get a flight. And then that flight got canceled. So then we had to go to New York. And then we got that flight from New York to here. But then that flight got canceled, so we had to stay at a hotel overnight. And then after we stayed at the hotel overnight, we got rebooked for a flight in the morning, and here we are.
And Blake, remember that even before this government shutdown, we were talking about air traffic controller shortages. So yes, things are really bad right now, and there are air traffic controllers that aren't showing up to work because they have to take that second job just to make ends meet. But even when the government shutdown ends, even when the reductions are completely done with, then we still are facing a 2,000 air traffic controller shortage. So again, this is just America right now for the flying public.
Yep, and keep in mind, the members of Congress who need to get back here and vote, got to take those planes. A lot of them do. Alex Capriello live tonight in Chicago. Alex, thank you. Meantime, the world's biggest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, arriving off the coast of Venezuela. Would you look at this thing? It's one of the most impressive things that we have in the United States military. It's the latest show of military might in the region as tensions escalate with Venezuela. It follows, of course, a series of U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats in the Caribbean and in the Pacific, in all 19 strikes on at least 20 boats. The administration posting video after video after video. We've seen all this play out over the matter of several weeks here, 10 weeks really. Joining me now, retired Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert with us tonight. Happy Veterans Day, sir.
Thank you, Blake.
You served where?
I served for 28 years in the United States Air Force, and it's my privilege and honor to do so.
Indeed. I see all these strikes. They're done via drone, we believe, right? I don't need a big, massive aircraft carrier off the coast of Venezuela to do this. So what's the commander-in-chief doing?
The president wants to compel Maduro to step aside. And the threat of a carrier strike group is a great way to do that. But it's pretty obvious that this thing isn't steaming very quickly towards the Caribbean. In fact, it's only about halfway across the Atlantic.
So it can go up to like 35 miles an hour, but it took its time getting there.
Thus far, it's 3 weeks in. You and I could row a boat faster from Croatia to this location, which means the president likes the idea of threatening the carrier. But once the carrier's in the area of responsibility, then there's some urge to use it. And I don't think the president wants to use it. He wants to use it to compel Maduro to do something he wants him to do.
So here's the activity near Venezuela. Let's show that real quick. And you can see that there's assets all over the place, right? It started with, fighter jets in Puerto Rico, and we've got them north of Venezuela and east and out to the west, everywhere. But the USS Gerald R. Ford, General, let's talk about that for a second, because it has asset after asset. The Super Hornet, the Growler, Hawkeye, Seahawk, Greyhound, more than 4,000 sailors. Of all these things major military might up here, what stands out to you?
All of these are required, Blake, to be able to give the president options. You look back to Iran, there were 7 B-2s, but they were part of a 125 aircraft strike package. Those are jammers, those are air refuelers, those are command and control aircraft. All of that is required to be able to do what maybe the president intends to do, which is to strike Venezuela. You need all of those aircraft to work together to do that safely and effectively.
All of those working in unison?
That's exactly right. Plus the destroyers and cruisers that come with the Ford that are part of that strike package.
You think we get there or no? Or this is purely message?
At some point, the problem is there's a credibility trap that once you get the carrier to the Caribbean, if you don't get done Maduro stepping aside what you want to do, then the president might feel compelled to use it, even though he doesn't necessarily want to.
Retired Brigadier General John Teichert, how many years? 28?
28 years, yes, sir.
Happy Veterans Day. Thanks,
Blake.
Appreciate it. Still to come here on the Hill. Other side of the break, the president tripling down on the economy, calling talks of rising costs a con job. Is that what it is? One of the best Republican minds in this town, former Principal Deputy Secretary in the first Trump White House, Hogan Gidley. Other side of the break. All right, 6:30 here on the East Coast tonight. It's been just about a week or so, a little less than a week, really, after Democrats swept elections across the country on messages about lowering prices. We've heard this word affordability, right, for basically a week now. Now, President Trump and his administration keep praising the economy and pushing off concerns about affordability. Watch.
More than anything else, it's a con job by the Democrats. Costs are way down. Gasoline is going to be hitting $2 pretty soon.
We inherited an affordability crisis. We have slowed the price increases down, and they are going to continue to slow down.
But is the administration sounding a bit like the one before it? The Biden administration, as Americans complain about rising costs, and the current White House basically says, nothing to see here. Hogan Gidley, special advisor to Speaker Mike Johnson, former principal deputy press secretary in the first Trump White House, with us live tonight here on the Hill. Hogan, nice to see you, sir. Look, you know you can't tell people how to feel. And people feel that prices are going higher, and I hear the president saying it's a con job, and I just wonder if he's falling into the exact same trap that Joe Biden fell into.
No, he's not. But first, let me address kind of one of the points here in this. I think one of the most offensive things you can do to a voter is basically tell them what they feel isn't real. Right. Last time in the last presidential election, we had a Democrat Party telling us the border was secure. It wasn't. They were telling us you're actually paying less for gas and groceries. You weren't. They were telling us crime is down. It wasn't. So those things were stark realities. What this president, though, is doing is something quite different, and that's messaging the things that we have done to improve people's lives on the Republican side that a lot of people don't know about or haven't been explained the nuances of it, meaning 67% of America didn't even know tax cuts were in the one big beautiful bill. Now you're seeing a reduction in gasoline prices way down from where Joe Biden had them. Inflation was up, what, 9% at its height?
But you know, Hogan, when
Biden, now it's down around 2.5%. Still needs to go lower, but this president understands that. And if anybody gets the economy, it's this president who gave us the greatest economy this country has ever seen in the first term. Fixing all of Biden's mistakes, it's going to take a minute.
But Hogan, you know, and strip the issue or the party or whatever out. When you're explaining in this town, you're losing. And I just heard you say that we need to explain better.
Well, we do need to explain better, but I think in large part the American people are feeling some difficulties out there, but it's residual from the last administration. As I mentioned, a lot of people don't even know what was in the big, beautiful bill. It's incumbent upon Republicans to tell them, listen, this has been a long-standing problem with the GOP, and that is once we pass something, we just think the American people get it and why it's good and why it's profitable for them, instead of explaining them over and over and over again, repeating the talking point, the message point, the reality that what we have actually done, whether it's a reduction in crime, sealing the border, improving the economy, ending foreign wars, you have to keep that drum beat up. Democrats do it even when it's a failed system like Obamacare, for example, some fight we're about to have in the near future, and Republicans typically don't. It's incumbent upon this administration to do so, and I think you're going to start feeling some of those effects too, and the mood is going to change at the first of the year when some of these reductions take place.
Day after the election, I anchored the morning show and of course this show. I spoke to two different Republicans, and they both brought up the same thing, Congressman Bean of Florida and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here's what they told me, and then I want to take it up on the other side.
We still have to pay attention. We still have to study. And look, affordability was a major theme going across the board.
It was about America first. It was about MAHA, and it was about cost of living and putting Americans' issues above everything else.
Hogan, you know that the president has a little more than 3 years left in office, and then his 2 terms are up. You're going to hear Donald Trump talk a lot about legacy and focus a lot about legacy. But for these House members, they got a race to run in November. And I just wonder, you know the House Republicans extremely well. If at some point they're going to say, okay, we are behind the president, but we have our own races and we're not going to neglect this.
Oh, they're not going to neglect it. But look, so many things go into winning and losing elections, as you know, the non-sexy parts, the blocking and tackling, to get out the vote efforts. So election night came and went, and what you had were a lot of Democrats who won in Democrat-controlled states. There's really no news there. But when you lose elections, you always want to be introspective and find out what you could do better. Of course, Democrats talked about affordability. You saw that in New York and New Jersey. You saw that in Virginia. Those states have some of the highest state taxes in this country. So they have nowhere to look but inward at their own party that have been controlling these states for decades. And instead, what they did was try and lay at the feet of congressional Republicans and Donald Trump. That whole thing was a lie, and that whole thing was a scam. I think that's what Donald Trump's talking about. But these congressional members, they know their districts, and they know what they're going to have to do to win those seats. And don't think for 2 seconds that those members who are going to be running those elections aren't going to be having conversations with Donald Trump, with the Senate, trying to come up with strong messaging and also data points that prove what they have done have really improved the lives of all Americans, regardless of your race, religion, color, or creed.
Our News Nation poll from just a couple weeks ago, have you made a financial sacrifice over the past year? 58% say that they have. By the way, that includes 51% of Republicans. Hogan, let me turn you to what's going on up on Capitol Hill. As I mentioned, you know that landscape as well as anyone. It's expected the government shutdown to end tomorrow afternoon. But I just wonder if we're going to be going through all of this again in February and in March, considering that the deal only funds the government through January 30th. Is it the belief, Hogan, within Republican circles that this was the one shot that Democrats took? Or do you think that we could be having this conversation again early next year?
Oh, no, we'll have it again. Look, I think
so?
people have short-term memory when it comes to shutdowns and the effects.
Do you think a shutdown next year, or do you think a shutdown early next year is a real possibility?
No, I don't. No, hold on. Don't get ahead of me here. What I'm saying is, but a shutdown in an election year, much different. People do remember that type of behavior, and largely the American people are fed up with Washington, D.C. They don't think it works for them at all. They love their congressmen, hate Congress, et cetera. We know all those mantras. But next year is a whole different story. But the mere fact we're going to be having a conversation about health care proves the point. Democrats passed Obamacare with no Republican votes. We're still talking about health care when we were promised it would fix all the ills and all the woes. So chances are health care is going to be the biggest issue, if not for the economy.
Does Trump have a plan?
That's going to be the top 2 things people are talking about.
Does Trump have a plan? You were in the White House for several years.
Well, Trump absolutely has some ideas on how to fix the healthcare system. And let's be honest, Democrats left the border open for 10 to 20 million people pouring across. We fixed that little problem. The economy, we fixed that little problem. Crime was up. We fixed that little problem. Chances are we'll have to step in and fix the mess that is Obamacare 2, out of control spending on this, skyrocketing premiums. The big, beautiful bill had some cost share reductions in it that would have reduced premiums by 15%. Democrats came and took it right out because they don't care about this issue at all. It's an insurance giveaway. We know that. This is going to be a messaging war, but also a policy war of how Republicans can come up with a plan that actually reduces the cost of health care for the American people, because Lord knows the Democrats haven't been able to do it.
Senior advisor to Mike Johnson, former principal White House Deputy Press Secretary Hogan Gidley with us tonight. Thank you, sir. See you soon once all this ends. Yep, you got it. All right, still to come here on the Hill. Just minutes ago, the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, announced the first thing on the agenda for Congress after the government reopens. We'll share it. Something Marjorie Taylor Greene also alluded to.
I've started to question, is this why we're not in session?
Really?
Yeah. This is that the discharge petition is sitting there.
Plus, a vet's best friend in many cases. On this Veterans Day, meet the company changing lives, one furry friend at a time. We're back on the other side, 4 minutes out. All right, welcome back here to the Hill. The Republican Party remaining steadfast in what looks like will be, at least politically speaking, a victory to end the longest government shutdown ever. But with the reopening of the federal government expected tomorrow afternoon, what comes next? Hakeem Jeffries already saying earlier this hour that the Epstein case and the Epstein files will be front and center. What else beyond that? Full panel here with me now. Tia Mitchell, Washington correspondent for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Yemisi Egbawali, former White House chief of staff in the Biden press office. And T.W. Origi, former communications aide to Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Hello to you all. Thanks for being in. Happy Tuesday. Looks like the government shutdown ends tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the expectation. Okay, then Congress is back, right? Like they haven't been here for decades or generations at this point, it feels like. What happens next? What's coming forward? Is it Epstein? Is it Venezuela? Questions about that? Something else we're not thinking about here?
I think you're going to see Epstein come back up. I'd like to see Congress get to work and get those appropriation bills through both chambers of Congress.
Oh, come on, they haven't done that.
I said that's what I would like
Right.
that to be the case. I also do think there is a place to get ahead of the healthcare conversation. That is going to come to a head. I have Republican clients of mine who are seeing the effects of this in their district right now and the chatter growing. They know there's going to have to be some sort of discussion. We might as well do it on our terms now than when the election's in a month.
Yeah, well, let's get Adelita Grijalva in her position. Let's get her voting and as a part of Congress like she was elected by her constituents. I think that's going to be top of mind for House Dems.
She's the Democrat from Arizona who would be the final vote to trigger the discharge petition, which I guess we expect
get
maybe
us back to Epstein.
get back to Epstein. Right?
Yeah.
So many roads lead there. What else?
I think we are going to have a healthcare conversation. We can't leave this open-ended. There was a lot of hurt that came on this path for over 40 days with this shutdown. We can't just drop healthcare. I think Democrats have done a good job of raising the alarm bells when it comes to the conversation, and now they actually have to come through with something else.
Here was Marjorie Taylor Greene just the other day. Watch.
I've started to question, is this why we're not in session?
Really?
Yeah. This is that the discharge petition is sitting there. I want to release the Epstein files, and it's been blocked over and over.
So that's coming. It was interesting to hear them both say healthcare, right? Like, how big does that conversation, where does that go from here?
Well, I think it is going to be a big conversation because Democrats are not going to let it go because they know they're winning on the issue. They know that it's now on top of minds of voters. And I think we heard Hakeem Jeffries just today say they're going to try to get an amendment to the government funding bill to add the healthcare subsidy extension onto it. It's not going to pass, but that's just going to give Democrats yet another talking point. We know the Senate is going to put something on the floor by mid-December, or at least that's what Leader Thune has promised to do.
Right.
So Democrats say, and again, they're going to go home for the rest of the week. And Democrats say when they go home, their voters are saying, please keep talking about this. We know a lot of Democratic voters weren't happy that the shutdown ended because they wanted to keep talking about health care. So I think Democrats, to move past the shutdown, move past the hurt feelings that some of their base have about the way the shutdown ended, they're going to say, hey, but we're still going to be talking about health care. It's still top of minds for us. We're not going to let it go.
You couldn't give me a list of 5 things that were accomplished during the shutdown because there's no list, right? It's basically the status quo. But I wonder, in a sense, with even TW saying this, if you feel, obviously, maybe not tangibly, but if there was some sort of a win, that now all of a sudden the conversation moves in this direction.
Sure. If we are looking into the black hole that was the shutdown and we have to pull something out as a moderate Democrat.
Or do you not feel that way? I don't want to put words into your mouth.
I mean, look, as a moderate Democrat, I think we've always been more the side of the Dems that are a little bit more sympathetic to the establishment of Schumer and Jeffries. But, I mean, patience is wearing thin. So I think another conversation that's going to happen is where do we look to leadership as we go into 2026 as well?
How badly is Schumer in trouble?
I think he's not that badly in trouble with fellow Senate Democrats. I think a lot of them know he was in a tough spot. He didn't even support the government funding bill that the 8 Democrats.
How convenient. The only people that supported it are people who are politically covered because they're retiring and not running for re-election.
But I mean, so it's like he's getting blamed for something he didn't even support. Even all the reporting shows that he allowed them to talk, but wasn't necessarily in favor of what they were doing. My point is, he's getting it from all sides. So I think Senate Democrats don't necessarily have an appetite to throw him under the bus, but his base might have a problem. He might have some primary challenges coming up in the future. But, I think Democrats, when I talk to Democrats, they say, we want to keep focused on the main thing, which is health care. We don't think the conversation that anyone wants us to have is about whether Chuck Schumer should remain as our leadership.
It was a fool's errand going into this. We talked about this ad nauseum when the shutdown began. What's the off-ramp here for Democrats? And we couldn't figure it out. And so the deal that they accepted was on the table since October 16th, and they just wasted 24 days that we could have been talking about other things. We didn't, and I think that's wrong.
I mean, it was basically there for weeks, no?
It had. John Thiel brought up on the 16th.
I mean, there is language to roll back some of the layoffs, language to keep more mass layoffs, language to ensure that furloughed workers get paid. And again, it's not just about what was in the deal. The conversation today is much different than it was before the shutdown began. The public conversation, the public knowledge of the subsidies is much different than it was before the shutdown began. I'm not saying it's a complete win, but things are different.
Meantime, the race to redraw congressional maps across the country before next year's midterms is underway. Republicans have successfully redrawn 9 districts to their advantage in Texas, Missouri, North Carolina, and Ohio. The Democrats gaining 6. This is all in theory, like if the votes go the way that we all think they're going to go. 5 of them in California and 1 in Utah, where a judge just approved a map, likely giving them a blue district around Salt Lake City. So if you're looking at your scorecard, it's the red team 9, the blue team 6. What are we, in the bottom of the 5th inning here, TW? Where are we?
Yeah, we got a long way to go. Obviously, there's Supreme Court cases pending. We have White House pressure on a number of states to reconsider drawing maps throughout the country. It always kills me that we've been dealing with this problem since 1812, and we still are dealing with it today. Gerrymandering is still with us. In my home state of Massachusetts, the birthplace of that term, we deal with it there. Look, I think as long as humans are doing it themselves, and it is a human enterprise via politics, you're going to have partisan drawings and you're going to have gerrymandering. What's the solution to it? I wish I knew. We've been grappling with it for 200 plus years. So hopefully there is a way forward, but I think we're moving in a bad direction, especially places like California getting rid of anybody.
Well, did you say that about Texas too?
No, I don't like any of it.
Okay.
Does this end at 9-6?
I think it grows a little bit, and I hope that the governors of certain states, like J.B. Pritzker, I hope he's watching how Gavin Newsom did it. Huge boon to Newsom to do it. He saw Texas do it and said, game on. He got it through. It showed a lot of leadership, which is great for him if he's looking for anything in the future. So I think J.B. Pritzker should have some consideration. I think Josh Shapiro as well. Talk about it.
Give you the last word here.
I'll just say that I don't think, again, it's not really popular. Republicans and Democrats, the voters, don't like where this is going because they know it's going to only result in more partisanship in Congress, more gridlock, more of what they repeatedly tell us they don't like about politics. So it's a bad look.
TW, Yemisi, Tia, I called you Washington Bureau correspondent. My apologies, Washington Bureau Chief. There we go.
Amen.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Still to come. Other side of the break, America's war heroes get a surprise they will never forget on this Veterans Day. We'll show it to you. All right, if you're just getting home, trying to catch up on today's top stories, here's some of what's trending over at thehill.com. There was this. Did you see the video here? Turning Point USA event prompts protests and arrests at UC Berkeley. This was a Turning Point USA event on the campus of UC Berkeley. Last night resulted in violent clashes. This is just some of it. Several arrests as well. The event taking place 2 months after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Also trending tonight, there's this. Space food made from astronaut urine to be tested on the International Space Station. You read that right. It's all an experiment by the European Space Agency to see if an organic compound found in the bodily fluid could be used to make food in space. You get it all here on The Hill. And finally this, President Obama, did you see this video? Surprised flight of veterans and their families as they arrived in Washington. Watch.
Hello, everybody. What? As we approach Veterans Day, I wanted to stop by and just say thank you for your extraordinary service.
The 44th president stopping on a plane to say thank you to a group of veterans of World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War, who were all arriving in D.C. for Veterans Day festivities. To check out those stories and more, all you have to do, head on over to thehill.com. All right, before we head out tonight, one issue that hopefully transcends party lines is showing support and appreciation for our nation's veterans, right? Now, that can be done in a number of ways, so many different ways, but I leave you tonight as we often focus on the veterans, and rightfully so. Also wanted to point out some of the veterans' companions who provide love
and support as well. For the last 50 years, the nonprofit Canine Companions has been providing trained service dogs to veterans for everything from helping those who suffer from physical disabilities to just simply getting to work, to also providing comfort for the many who suffer from PTSD. Since 1975, over 8,000 service dogs have been placed with veterans to hopefully improve their lives, and it couldn't be done without the more than 34,000 volunteers who help raise, train, and care for the puppies before they are ready for their veteran friends. So on this Veterans Day, a thank you to that group, Canine Companions, and of course, a happy Veterans Day to our veterans out there. Coming up on Elizabeth Vargas Reports, she is talking to the Congresswoman-elect Adelita Grijalva, who will be sworn into Congress tomorrow. As we mentioned just before the break, that'll trigger a whole lot of events here in Washington. That conversation coming up just seconds away. I thank you so much for being with us tonight here on The Hill. I'm Blake Berman. We'll see you tomorrow.